Alright, welcome back everyone. This is Timespinner. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this game, it is a Metroidvania, fairly action-oriented, very heavily influenced by the Castlevania series. This run is going to be New Game Plus Glitchless. New Game Plus has several notable sort of differences from the standard New Game or any % run mechanically that I will get into during the run. But I think with that out of the way, I can just sort of get right into it. So time starts when selecting a difficulty, so 3, 2, 1, go. So, alright, so the first major difference is I start with Teleria, and that's this long, fast forward dash, and basically I'm going to try to use that as much as possible because it's the fastest way of moving. The second major difference is I start with every weapon and the ability to switch between 3 loadouts at will without going into the menu. And that's pretty tightly routed. All of the weapons and all of the charge attacks are going to see some use in this run. For example, right here I'm going to start by using the light wall. The light wall makes this solid wall of light. It's great. I'm using it right now for a sequence break, dropping down into sealed caves to pick up the security keycard B early. Basically, there are four main security keycards, A, B, C, D. B is going to let me access areas that require D or C in addition to B, so I can skip those lower level keycards, just jumping right back out, using the Chaos Blade's charge spell to clear these enemies out, and I'm now going to climb up and pick up the Timespinner wheel. This is going to be a very important item throughout the run. It essentially allows me to pause time and unpause time, and what that does is it stops moving platforms from moving, and also it stops enemies from moving, but it retains their collision so I can like stand on them and stuff, and so that's going to be used for platforming and accessing areas, and also sort of manipulating their locations. This next room is sort of the climb out of Lake Desolation. It's one of the most complex single rooms in terms of like movement. So let's see. Okay, that went very well. Coming up on the first boss, and bosses in this category, well, you'll see what happens to them. Yeah, just hit it with a hammer, not really a problem. Because the third difference with New Game Plus is I am at maximum level, so my attacks deal maximum damage, so I basically beat everything immediately. So I'm coming up on Varner and Metropolis. This is, in my opinion, the hardest part of the run, at least to do optimally, because there's just so much different type of movement. Sort of flashed the time stop a little bit because I missed max distance on the jump. Just jumping down into the water here and light walling out, because that's a lot more reliable than trying to hit all the different cycles, because that room's really complex. So moving on, that's one of those keycard D doors that I can skip. Basically, just charging up a Chaos Blaze to clear out these weird little bird head helicopter things. Just moving up, I'm going to be moving up the stairs, ascending basically this building, running past the security guard, and climbing up the ventilation shaft. Pretty decent start of Varner and Metropolis, actually. Pausing time for that security guard and this one too, because they can be kind of disruptive. Into the air conditioning again, and through that door in 257. That's a really good pace to be on through this portion of the run. Usually I look at like 258's a great start. I'm going to pause because these gargoyle Roomba things, they're really fast and really mean. Charging up another Chaos Blade, going to switch over to Plasma Orb, which is this sort of long-range homing attack. Clearing out these spiders. Got that one as I dropped down. Taking out these last few, going through this last air duct, and picking up the elevator keycard that's going to let me ride the elevator. And so I'm going to ride the elevator first down, and I'm going to go into basically set this one warp point for fast travel later. I'm going to come back to it multiple times later in the run, so it takes a little bit it's a bit of an excursion right now, but it's going to save a lot of time later on. So now I'm taking the elevator back up, and I'm going to ride it all the way to the next boss, which is Varnagroth, and this is the one time in the whole run when I use the Eye Orb. The Eye Orb basically sort of it lingers, it sits there and has this lasting hitbox, and there's not a great cue for when Varnagroth becomes vulnerable, so the Eye Orb is the perfect counter to that. And just like that, Varner is down. So, I mean, I mentioned that, you know, you beat everything in one hit. That doesn't totally trivialize combat because you still have to figure out, you know, which weapon is going to beat each thing as fast as possible. And also, attacking at all is slower than not attacking, so you want to just avoid as much combat as possible, I guess. So I got the Timespinner spindle now. That's going to let me travel back in time, and the problem is I don't have the correct items that I need to sort of go to the right time, so I'm going to just go all the way like 1,000 years in the past, and that's not exactly ideal. I'm going to have some water, though, because this is an unskippable cutscene. Okay, water has been had. I'm going to sort of navigate a bit before the screen fades back in using that that marker that indicates that there's an NPC there as sort of to see where I am. Skipping some more cutscenes, and then heading out to Greenwood Forest. And this is going to use Plasma Orb a bit more to get rid of these birds as I jump up and grab the ledge. Switching back over to Chaos Blades because there are some moths in the next screen that I need to kind of clear out with it. I'm coming up on a pretty neat portion in terms of platforming, and that is Lake Serene. I'll explain it a little bit more, but for now I'm jumping under the bats, over the rats, and through another warp gate. Not going to use this one, it's just a transition point. So Lake Serene, I'm going to pause time because these flies here are really mean, and so I'm just going to run right under them. Skip a cutscene, take out this bird, and run out the door, pause time, jump off of this bird up here. That's one of my favorite like little things because it looks really cool. It feels cool to do. It's not particularly hard. The Scythe Ring is this thing that basically puts this hitbox on the orbs that are orbiting me. The cycle can be kind of weird for that room, so luckily I got it right and the timing was good. Pausing again because the flies are even worse here. I've actually died here before without pausing, so coming up on the next boss, the Azure Queen, a huge bird. And there we go. Not much of a big deal. Dropping down here, going to pick up the Pyramid Stones, which is going to let me use these fast travel gates. And I am accosted by these two demons. They are going to open up the drawbridge to the castle in the past, all the way in the east. And right now, actually, this run is on pretty decent pace so far. One thing is, you see, like, I'm jumping a lot, and there are a few reasons for that. One, slopes are kind of weird in this game, and it's slower to go on a slope than it is to go on a flat surface. So basically, whenever there's a slope, I try to jump so that I'm not actually contacting the slope, and instead I retain the full forward speed. The other thing is, basically, I want to, like, just keep moving as much as possible. So I jump whenever I attack, because if you attack when you're grounded, you stop moving. If you attack when you're in the air, then it resets your dash, so you do slow down, but you can keep moving, like, at low speed. So I try to do that if I absolutely have to attack. So, like, right here, I'm going to use Chaos Blades a few times in these next few rooms just to clear out some enemies, short hopping before each one. Pausing time, jumping over this enemy. This area, to be completely honest, is like one of the ones that I'm worst at, and this is actually a really good run through it. I'm kind of surprised at how well that went. So now we're on to Castle Keep. Gonna have one last Chaos Blades, and then that's gonna be putting that one away for a while. Just clearing out these enemies, and pausing time so this archer doesn't shoot at me, because that wouldn't be ideal. In the next room, I'm going to pause and jump off of the Royal Advisor, similarly to the bird in Lake Serene. And now there's this last hallway. Ran into that guy. That's not a huge deal, because I kind of got bonked the way I want to get bonked, but now I'm coming up on the Golden Idol. Basically, I use the Gun Orb to shoot one demon, and then the Colossal Hammer to hit the Golden Idol. And now I pick up the Succubus Hairpin, which is a double jump. It's really great, because obviously more flexible movement, more height. Basically, the more flexibility, the better. And it's also, the animation is really nice. It's this sort of pirouette you'll probably see soon enough. So now we're coming up on Royal Towers, and this is one of the coolest parts of the run. Lots of climbing. So basically, like, up to now, there's been a lot of horizontal movement. This is a really big test of vertical movement, though. First, though, this room is kind of neat because the scythe ring cycle lines up perfectly to just run through all of those birds. So the difficult climbing starts now. So first climb room went really well. This is called Ice Skip Skip because in any percent there's a thing called Ice Skip that you can just skip using Light Wall. So basically I'm just dashing, jumping up the stairs, attacking when there's an enemy, and coming up to the next boss, Queen Aelana, and just a couple of attacks using a warp shard now to teleport back to the warp gate, and going to that gate that I set earlier in Varner and Metropolis because I need to go to Seal Caves, not the part of Seal Caves from earlier in the run. This is a different part of Seal Caves. It's actually not accessible from it. It's like in the past it was, the past version of this it is, you know, but it's sort of fallen into disrepair, so I can't anymore. This part's kind of tight. This movement, just sort of running through this hallway. The first room is mostly empty. Here I'm going to be jumping over. And this next hallway, I call it the lot of guys hallway because there are a lot of guys in it. I just jump over and under all of them. And this next room, I'm going to pause time because these enemies, they jump around a lot and they are massively inconvenient if they hit you. Just jumping over these weird ridges, I can't really like do the whole, you know, constantly jumping kind of thing because there are enemies on the ceiling. I got the water mask. That's going to let me breathe underwater and swim around. And that's a really nice thing to be able to do. In fact, I'm going to go back to Lake Serene right now and take a swim. And basically that is I'm going to go to the Caves of Banishment, which is sort of the past version of the Seal Caves, but I'm going into the opposite end of it. And at the end of it, in the heart of the Seal Caves, or Caves of Banishment, sorry, there is the Maw of Asmodeus, which is, in the game's sort of story, in the lore, it's sort of it's a massive planet-destroying super weapon that I obviously have to put a stop to because I don't want it to destroy a planet, but in the actual gameplay, it's a complete pushover, and I don't mean like, you know, oh, you know, we've one-shot everything because it's New Game Plus. I mean like in any percent, when you actually have to fight the bosses, this thing basically, you can't get killed by it. It's not threatening at all. But anyway, just basically running through Caves of Banishment, pausing to jump over these enemies because they also like to jump. I'm going to fall down this pit. This game does not have fall damage, which is great. I love it when games choose not to punish my insatiable hubris. Running past this, ideally, would have jumped over that snail, but I kind of bonked on it. That's okay, that happens a lot. Just jumping down, jumping over these guys, and jumping over the snail. Got it that time. Switching over to Gun Orb for this last climb up before the Maw. This is another one with some fairly in-depth climbing portions. That could have been a little bit cleaner, but it's decent, just shooting the bone door down. And now gonna shoot the Maw a couple times. And, oh, that was really nice. Basically, okay, so the thing about the Maw is, it's probably the only like major instance of RNG in this run. It doesn't die immediately when you kill it. It has to finish the attack it's using currently, and it chose a really fast attack. So we're heading on to my favorite split personally, military hangar / lab, and this is just pure movement. Military hangar is like 5 rooms, 5 main rooms, and each one has a lot of areas where it can kind of go wrong. The first 2 were good. Let's see how this... Or, sorry, first 3 were good. 4th was nice. This room is kinda weird. Okay, barely got it. There's not really a great cue for that jump, like when to pause, when to double jump, that sort of thing. But I made it work. So now we're into the laboratory, where Dr. Bad Guy does unethical science experiments, so I'm gonna have to tell him, hey, stop that, you know, that sort of thing. There's this conveyor belt coming up, and I'm gonna have to do a little bit of weird time stop thing to account for the large squishy mallet piston thing that would have squished me otherwise. There's not really a perfect solution to that room. Had a little bit of difficulty with the light wall, but I've hit that thing that's going to turn the power off, and that shuts down all of the laser doors, but it also releases Experiment 11 from their tanks. These things are terrible. They're really fast. They're really aggressive. They inflict chaos, which, if they hit me, and that's a status condition that slowly drains the sand meter, which is basically the time stop gauge. And so obviously I don't want to get hit by that because I want to be able to stop time and everything. Also, they're exempt from time stop, so I can't just pause and run past them. So I'm coming up on Genza, aka Dr. Bad Guy. Kind of missed that jump there, and just firing a couple shots. Got security keycard A. That's going to let me go into the very high security areas, and so basically, the first of those areas that I'm going to go to is the lab basement, and each of these, there are 3 high security areas. Each one has a different gear for the Timespinner, and when I have all 3 gears, I am going to be able to go to sort of the correct time. So I'm just sort of running through here. I'm going to drop down to these laser spiders. They're very mean, so I'm just using 3 Chaos Blades to clear all of them out. Got Timespinner Gear 1. I'm going to Warp Shard out, and then teleport to that Warp Gate from Varner and Metropolis. And so now I'm just jumping up here. This one will only take 2 Chaos Blades to take out all of the spiders because they're a bit more densely packed and there is 1 less. So I'm charging 1 sort of preemptively as I go into the room. So now I'm switching over to Plasma Orb. Got Timespinner Gear 2 and Warp Shard. Gonna go to Sealed Caves, Lower Sealed Caves, the one that is mostly the same as the Caves of Banishment from earlier in the run. The platforming is nearly identical, basically. The only difference is there are more enemies and the enemies are more dangerous. Since we've already seen this, since we've already basically seen all the platforming earlier in this run, Bahamut, if you have any donations or other messages to give, now is a really great time for that.
Actually, we have a bunch of donations. We have a $1 by Socks Monster with no comment. We have $20 by Anonymous, another $1 by Anonymous with a comment, Anonymous-KS, which may be Kansas. And we have a $20 donation by Marquis Dan saying, been looking forward to this run of Timespinner All Marathon. Here's $20 towards the Celeste bonus run.
Alright, thank you. So, we've got Snail Redemption. I jumped over the snail properly that time. So that little hop I did at the start of that room is this little thing that I've sort of been working into my runs the last few days. I didn't get it that time, but you can kind of, if your spacing is perfect, you can kind of fall through that gap without bonking on the thing, and it just saves like a tiny fraction of a second, but it's nice, you know. And so that was Zarion. Well, the hardest boss in the game, and I just sort of hammered it because, you know, combat isn't as much of a thing. So now I have all the Timespinner gears. I'm going to go back to the lab, back to the artificial Timespinner that Dr. Bad Guy had set up, and I'm going to fight Mr. Cutscene. Basically, the way this goes down is I'm going to skip 3 cutscenes, and I'm going to bonk this guy with a hammer, and then I'm going to have an unskippable cutscene that plays. So I'm going to hydrate because I'm very thirsty because I've been talking a lot. Wow. Okay, so basically we've just destroyed the universe with our constant meddling with time, and so that's not great. So skipping some more cutscenes, we're in the dream world now. Just waiting for this to fade in, and we're coming up on the Sandman. That's this lion made out of sand right here. He's basically God, and he's kind of mad at me because I destroyed the universe with my incessant meddling with time, and honestly, I mean, I kind of see his point, but I'm still gonna try to go to him and say, hey, can you, can you forgive me? But, so I'm just running through. A lot of these enemies, I can just sort of jump over them. I'm coming up on the hardest trick in the whole run. Basically, it's a light wall kind of double jump thing. I get one try at it, and if I miss it, I lose almost a minute. So let's see if I get it. Got it. Okay, I'm really happy that I hit that. The first time I ran this in a marathon, it was like I missed it, and I was like, oh no, But that's fine. We're actually coming up toward the end of the run. Basically, there are going to be 2 more bosses, and when I hit the second one with the hammer, that's time. So, just making my way down into the bottom of the pyramid, through this last save point, skipping the cutscene. Here's Sandman. Goodbye, Sandman. So here's Nightmare. I don't know I don't know what it is or where it came from, but it's here, so I'm gonna bonk it with a hammer again. And time. That was a very solid run, actually. That 2023. That's 7 seconds off world record.
GG.
Thank you. Before I go, I just wanna give a few shout outs real quick. To the Timespinner speedrunning community for testing and documenting and routing and optimizing this game so well. And the stuff that they've been doing is just absolutely incredible. Also want to give a shout out to Bodhi/Lunar Ray Games for making this game and including not 1 but 2 speedrun modes that we use for a lot of different categories. And also to the Midwest Speedfest team and all of the volunteers and runners just for making this event possible. It's been a great time for me, and everyone else's runs have been really great. So yeah, I think with that, that's all from me. So thanks, everyone.